IM1 which is called or titled Creating a Flowchart. And so we're going to answer the question, how do I organize my information? So question 731 says, examine the triangles at right. All right, so what I did is I looked to see if I could match up any of the information that was given. So on the triangle on the left, I found this angle that was 32 degrees, and I also found an angle on the right triangle that was 32 degrees. So I put a single arc on each because those two match up with each other, okay? Then on the triangle on the left, can you put your Chromebook away and pull out your packet, please? And then on the triangle on the left, I found an angle that was 75 degrees. And I looked on the triangle on the right, and I found another angle that was 75 degrees. So I put a double arc and a double arc because those two angles match up. All right? Then I looked to see if there was any other information, and I found this side over here that is 5.75 centimeters. And then there's a side over here that's also 5.75 centimeters. So I triple underlined it because those two sides match up. Question A says, are these triangles congruent? What do you think? Anybody know if these two triangles are congruent? Do we have enough information?
Yes.
Yes, they are congruent. And we had two options yesterday. Thank you. Of the two options that we learned yesterday, how are these two triangles congruent? What did you say? All the sides are not the same. We only have one side congruent to one side. Yep, there's an angle to an angle, and then there's another angle to another angle, and then there's a side to a side. So we call that angle, angle, side. Angle, angle, side. We also learned angle, side, angle. But in order to use angle, side, angle, the side has to be between the two angles, and it's not. It's after. So it goes green, orange, blue, which is angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. So you could say angle, angle, side, not angle, side, angle. Okay. Part B says, Julio decided to use a diagram to explain his thinking. A diagram like Julio's below is called a flow chart because it shows the flow of his thinking and records his reasoning. Okay? So we're going to take basically the same information that I went over up here and rewrite it into this flow chart. So the first thing they found was that angle A and angle T both equaled 32 degrees, and it was given to you. Remember, it was written right on the triangles. Okay, that means that angle A and angle T are congruent. The next piece of information they said was that angle B and angle P is 75 degrees because it was written on the triangles up there, so it's given to you. That means angle B is congruent to angle P. Then we know that side AC is 5.75 centimeters, and so is TO, both given, written right on the triangles up there for you. That makes the two sides congruent. So with these three pieces of information, we can say that the two triangles are congruent. Triangle CAB is congruent to triangle OTP, and we use angle, angle, side. All right? Compare your explanation to Julio's flow chart. Did Julio use the same reasoning we used? That would be yes. We got angle, angle, side. We got angle, angle, side. We wrote it kind of like a sentence. He wrote it in this beautiful little flow chart. Okay? So you're going to say, yes, we used the same reasoning as Julio did. All right, turn over to page 8. All right. Question 732 says, besides showing your reasoning, a flow chart can be used to organize your work as you determine whether or not the triangles are congruent. Examine the triangles at right. Are the triangles congruent? Organize your work and justify your conclusion by completing the flowchart on the blank shown below. Oh, okay. Be sure every oval has a reason beneath it and that arrows connect the ovals. Okay, so if you look at the two triangles over here, we'll just call this the triangle on the left, and this will be the triangle on the right. So we look to find, to see if we have matching information. So we have an angle that's 56.5 degrees on the triangle on the left, and then we have an angle that's 56.5 degrees on the triangle on the right. So I'm going to draw a single arc here and a single arc here. Then we've got an angle that is 101.2, and then over here we've got 22.3. So it doesn't look like they match up, but we learned something yesterday. Who remembers the theorem that we learned? Subtract them from 180. So if you add these two together, and with this one, they should be subtracted from 180. So do those two match up? You're going to say yes. 101.2 and 56.5 subtracted from 180 is 22.3 degrees. So I'm going to put a single or a double arc there. And then this one is a double arc as well. So we've got two angles congruent, which is going to make our third pair automatically congruent because of the triangle sum theorem. So I'm going to do 3 arcs here and 3 arcs here. Then I'm going to look for a side. So over here I've got a 12, and over here I've got a 12. I've also got a 6 and a 15, but I don't necessarily need it. I'm just looking for the 12 and the 12. Okay? So that's the information we need. We want that side and this side between our two angles. So here's what we're going to fill in the first row. We're going to say that angle C is 56.5, and so is angle P. So you're going to fill in angle P is also 56.5, and that was given to us. It was written right on the triangle. So you're going to write given and given. All right. Then we've got side CA is 12 units, whatever, inches or whatever we want it to be. And then PG, this side over here, is also 12. That was also given. Then we've got that angle G is 101.2. We calculated that using the triangle sum theorem. That's what we learned yesterday, the triangle sum theorem. This one, angle A, was given to us. Okay? So if these two angles have the same measure, we're going to say that they're congruent. So angle C is congruent to angle P. And if these two sides have the same measure, then the two sides are congruent. So we're going to say that side CA is congruent to side PG. I got my little wavy line. And then these two angles have the same measure, so they're congruent. So you're going to say that angle A is congruent to angle G. I need to draw arrows. So you should have an arrow drawn from these two ovals down to this oval. I'm not a, no. Then you should have 2 arrows drawn from these 2 ovals down to this oval, and these 2 arrows, or these 2 ovals with arrows drawn down to this oval. Okay, so fill those arrows in. Now we've got these 3 pieces of information. This side is in between those 2 angles. So we're going to say angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. The one on the other page was angle, angle, side, right? So the 2 triangles are congruent. Triangle CAT is congruent to triangle PGI by angle, side, angle. Question B says, what is the length of PI? So now we've said that these 2 triangles are congruent. So PI, this side right here, what is the measure of that going to be? 15, because if you look at the other triangle, the long side is 15. So you're going to say the PI is 15 units. Why? Because it's corresponding to the other triangle. It's the corresponding side. It's definitely not the 6. That's too short, right? Okay. Question 733. To show that two line segments, in this case, the sides of a triangle, are congruent, matching, we are going to use something called tick marks are used on the segments. To show that two angles are congruent, matching tick marks are used on a curve at the vertex. Right angles are marked by placing a small square at the vertex in the corner. We've already talked about that little box, right? Okay, so here we go. Ramon is examining the triangles above. Well, they're to the right. He suspects they may be congruent by angle, side, angle. Part A says, which pair of angles do you think Ramon is using for his justification? So we've got a little box here at R, and we've got a little box here at C. So he's got to be referring to R and C for sure, because they both have little boxes. But if you look up at L and you look up at A, it's got that little arc with a tick and the arc with a tick. That's called an arc mark and a tick mark combined. So angle L and angle A are going to be congruent because of those tick marks and those arc marks. Let me make it just a tad bigger. Okay. Part B. Are the triangles congruent? If so, create a flow chart and write an appropriate congruent statement. If not, explain why not. Okay? So we've pointed out that L and A are congruent. You're also going to notice that LR has a double tick. AC has a double tick. Side LN has a single tick. And side AB has a single tick. So there's lots of parts congruent. So let's see what we can do with it. I'm going to take the fact that R and C are 90 degrees because I like that little box. So I'm going to start with that. Okay? And that information is given to us. That little box, when they draw the little box, that means it's given. Okay? That means that those two angles are congruent to each other. The other pieces of information they gave us is that this side right here, RL, is congruent to this side right here, CA, because it has that double tick mark. And we don't even need to know a number. We just need to know that they're congruent, okay? And then the other piece of information I'm going to use is that angle L is congruent to angle A, because we have that arc with the tick, okay? So I'm going to take those three pieces of information and I'm going to say that the two triangles are congruent, and I used angle, side, angle. So we've got angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle. Technically, on this one, you could have also used angle, angle, side, but I used angle, side, angle.